In this first lesson, we are going to take a look at the verb to be in the past and simple present tense. To be is one of the most important verbs in English, and it is used also as an auxiliary verb, for example, in the continuous form. Now, to build a present sentence in the positive, you have to conjugate it depending on the subject. It is an irregular verb, so it does not follow a pattern when conjugating. For example, the subject I is conjugated to am. I am a teacher. To make an abbreviation, also known as a shorter form, you can say I'm a teacher. You are a student. In this case, it's conjugated to are because of the subject you. Or the abbreviation is you're a student. She or he is a student. She's a student. It is, it's an animal. We're teachers. You are, your students. They are, their students. Now let's look at the negative. In order to build a negative sentence, you need to make sure you add the word not. So you can say, I am not a teacher, or to make an abbreviation, you put I and M together to make I'm not a teacher. You are not a student. You can abbreviate are and not to make aren't, or you can put you and are together to say you're. You're not a student. She or he is not a student. You can also say she isn't a student or she's not a student. It is not an animal. It isn't an animal or it's not an animal. We are not teachers. We aren't teachers or we are not teachers. You are not students. You aren't students or you're not students. They are not students. They aren't students. They are not students. To make a question, you have to put the verb in the beginning of the sentence. So you start the sentence with am with the subject I, for example. Am I a teacher? Are you a student? Is she or he a student? Is it an animal? Are we teachers? Are you students? Are they students? Now, to build a past sentence, we need to change the verb to be to the past simple, which is was. Again, this is an irregular verb, so it does not follow a pattern when conjugated. And we'll start with here, I was a teacher. But when you conjugate with you, it's you were a student. She or he was a student. It was an animal. We were teachers. You were students. They were students. Now let's look at a negative sentence. Again, you need to make sure you have the word not in the sentence. So, I was not or wasn't a teacher. You were not, weren't a student. She or he was not, wasn't a student. It was not an animal, or it wasn't an animal. We were not, weren't teachers. You were not, weren't students. They were not, weren't students. To ask a question, it's the same as with the present simple. You put the verb in the beginning, but this time it's was instead of am. Was I a teacher? Were you a student? Was she or he a student? Was it an animal? Were we teachers? Were you students? Were they students?